Alright, so I recently got a question asking what are some good variations, or substitutions is probably the better word, for a pull-up if you don't have something like rings or a bar. Um, Still get that type of motion in there. So whenever I think about a movement or a question like this, I kind of go back to Dan John, who's a pretty famous strength and conditioning coach, real involved in the early days of CrossFit, more so involved now with Pavel in the RKC. And one of his things that he broke down human movement into was there's general basic patterns that you can pretty much boil everything down to. And this isn't, I don't know if it's his idea originally or just this is where I heard it from, but there's a lot of coaches out there who break movement down by movement. So when you think of a pull-up, it's an upper body pulling exercise. So where are some analogs in nature that we could find that? Well, pretty much anything you do that has kind of a climbing motion. Obviously, one of the better scale downs or substitutes for a pull-up for people in a commercial gym is going to be like a lat pull-down machine, something like that. If you don't have access to bar or rings, you probably don't have the ability to do that. Go outside, you can find sturdy tree limbs. You can find door jambs with enough of a ledge that you can put your hands on it. You can find pretty much anything you can get a hold of and start pulling yourself up onto it. It doesn't have to be nice, it doesn't have to be pretty, might not be ideal, but you can still start doing something like that. If it's another good thing would be like a climbing gym where you're incorporating some legs. You're still doing that climbing motion, you're pulling with your upper body, but it's a completely different implement. A lot of fun, good variety too. Another thing that could be an aspect of this is maybe they don't have a ring or pull-ups because they're not yet capable of doing an unassisted pull-up. In that case, there's a whole different variety of things you can do there. One of the things that I like is a horizontal row, either an Australian row on the pull-up bar or ring rows, gradually elevating your feet, gradually raising the angle of the rings so you're getting more and more vertical and you're strengthening your upper back using a horizontal pulling motion, which is a little bit easier to get you strong enough to do a vertical. A lot of CrossFit gyms will do jumping pull-ups or band assistant pull-ups. They're a really good substitute if you're trying to get metabolic conditioning out of the pull-ups, but you're never really going to get strong enough to do a real pull-up off of that. And it's very rare that I saw somebody able to get off the bands. Usually they become kind of a crutch, not really the best way to get a full real pull-up. So what I'd prefer is what they call a shoelace pull-up, where you set a box to where you can rest the tops of your feet, not the soles of your feet, the tops, where your shoelaces are, on the box and provide some assistance with your legs. It's not going to be enough, like in a jumping pull-up, that you're able to do a lot of them or them quickly or render even all that much assistance, but it'll be enough to get you most of the way through a pull-up. Another way to do it, which causes a good amount of stress to the body, is a jumping pull-up into a slow eccentric drop. So you're going to jump till your chin's over the pull-up bar and then hold yourself up in all of the positions, not just the top position, all of the positions for as long as you can. This is another good way to develop some strength. I'd say mix that up with some horizontal pulls like the ring rows and Australian rows, just so you're practicing some concentric, getting stronger that way too, and eventually get to a real pull-up. But there's really no amount of pressing or even pulling at a different angle that's going to get you strong in that vertical plane the same way practicing that vertical plane will. So jump up to the top, lower yourself down, and that's pretty much the fastest and most effective way to develop a pull-up in somebody who doesn't have it.